So this is your cleaning process for the night. So this is to wet cap for the evening. So you want to just move your, let's save the parameters first. I just finished moving it. You want to move your printer head to the left all the way. And that way you can get to your capping station and you have access to your cleaning station as well for your printer head. So just move that to the left. Now you have access to your printer heads, and you have access to the capping station to flush it out and clean the surrounding area of your capping station. So then what you want to do is block your sensor. So let me get something to block that. Okay, so block your sensor. Block your sensor. And then before you start your wet cap or flushing it out, so inside there is the sponge that's absorbed all the ink. So you want to get it out of there before you wet cap, because if you wet cap, just put moisturizer in without flushing it, there could be residue that it sits in as well, ink residue. So what I like to do before I flush it out is I just take some regular water or distilled water, wipe around the capping station, clean it off. See, there's white chunks there, you want to get those off. Get around it nice. Both sides, white and color. All around completely. And you want to make sure you get your wiper blade here. Give that a nice wipe. Now this is always good to keep moisturized at all times. You give it a wipe with like I kind of wring it out. So just put it in water, wring it out, and get all the ink off first, and then I'll moisturize it afterwards. So now that it's wiped, I can start my flushing. I can start flushing it out now to get it ready for wet capping. So let's start that process. So now I've got it blocked. And now I'm going to go over to my controls, hit function, and then go down to head maintenance, enter, down to fill ink, enter, to head, enter. So it's going to suck both of them. Now it'll load the ink. This will go down and up it'll load for 60 seconds, so it'll suck for about 60 seconds, and then it goes back down and then sort of resets. So you want to just keep pouring water in there until the sponge inside is all rinsed out and we're all flushed out nice. So when we put the moisturizer in there, there is no ink residue, of course. So you do the one, then go over, do your other one, your color. Just get in there. As you're doing it, you can kind of see the ink, the water, and you can kind of see it clear up. So, and you can watch through your hose as well. Watch it go through the hose. So that's like the color, and then that's the white. So you can still see there's a bit of white going through there. And another way to tell as well is when it pauses. So there's a pause in between when you use it here. It'll pause. So I'll wipe that up. So I fill it with ink carefully. Try not to do that. But yeah, and I look for ink residue within that water as it fills up. So I kind of I didn't see any ink residue in there as I made a little mess. But yeah, so once you get all the ink and stuff and your lines are clear of all ink, now you're ready to wet cap. Okay, so I'm just going to wipe up that mess there. So all I did was just took a foam tip, completely wrung it out so it could absorb all the water I just spilt, and the water around here, it'll just absorb it. Just like that. And there it stopped again. I can quickly fill it carefully. You can see there's no residue. So it's clean. These are clean, they're good for wet capping. And then what you want to do after that is you want to take a foam tip, a clean one, rinse it off, okay? And then put moisturizer, squeeze moisturizer into it. And then what you're gonna moisturize is just around here, around this little rubber. This is rubber around here. You wanna keep it nice and moist because it sits around the print head. So just keep it nice and moist. And then as well, make sure you're nice and moist with moisturizer, and get your wiper blade and make sure it's nice and moist at all times. I always like to do this at night, of course, and then in the morning, I'll move my head to the left and I'll moisturize my blade to make sure it's nice and moist. So then after that, you're ready for wet capping, but what you gotta do first is stop it from doing that, loading ink. Okay, so you go over here, you hit clear data. Don't wait for it to stop. So once you hit clear data, then you hit function, and it'll go back to the main status. And then you take your moisturizer, and then you fill your wet caps, not all the way, try not to go all the way. It's okay if you do, but just try to fill the combs up until they're just covered. So it's kind of like halfway in, and that'll just get the heads and keep them nice and moisturized. Yeah, so just like that. So now we're ready for wet capping. Okay, so what we do, well, now what we have to do is we can remove this now. So you can remove that from the sensor so that it's moved. And then you can go over, and now it's time to clean our printer head. And I'm gonna give you 2 shots here, kind of get one of the head and around it, sort of show you how to get around, clean around it. So you take your foam tip, wring it out completely, squeeze your moisturizer into it, soak it with moisturizer. And then what you want to do is you want to just lightly go over all of this ink, all around here, just lightly, nice and light. Just lightly go around it, get it nice and moist. I like to get all the ink around here nice and moist first, so that when I go to wipe it, it cleans off easy. So just get it all nice and moist. And just be careful that you don't touch the printer heads. You don't want to touch the printer head. Just be very careful. Okay, and after you have everything nice and moist, then you're going to rinse out that. You're going to wring it out completely, and now that it's wrung out and it's fairly dry, you can now kind of give a little bit of pressure. Don't go past this point here. So just give a little bit of pressure, and you can push up and forward and kind of clean that off, and it'll absorb the ink that's there, as well as the moisturizer we just put on there. And then after you do one side and get that side, get as best you can all of the ink you can, and you keep rinsing and repeat. So I'm rinsing it off, squeezing it out, putting a little bit of moisturizer and squeezing it out. You don't have to soak it, just a little bit. Now it's wrung out, and I can squeeze and put a little bit of pressure on this side to get that ink out. Then you want to get the front. Now, as well as the plate, the silver plate here, and you want to make sure you get in these crevice of these guards. There's 2 guards on each head. You want to make sure that you get in the crevice of each one as well, and give those a good scrub in there, in each side. Make sure you get in there. And then what you do is you wring it out completely, and we're going to get in the 4 corners of the head. So you wring it out or get a new foam tip if it's too dirty. Completely soak it in moisturizer. This might get a little messy on my camera, but you basically got to go around here. This is for all in the little crevice that's around it, and on this kind of on the silver there, on the head. You can just wipe and press forward. Don't try to rub it, and watch that you don't touch the head. And then I kind of twist it, and then do the other side, nice and carefully, and then I'll come around the front. Again, just watching that you don't touch the head, and then you collect everything that's in the crevice of that, all the ink in there, and again, rinse and repeat. Just soak it, and then inside the crevice at the front, make sure you get it nice there, right across, and then the front. And then once you have all that wiped, you just wipe the sides here of anything that was left over, give that a wipe. And now what you can do is I rinsed it off, and then now that I put moisturizer here earlier, I can push on these parts here, and you can clean these off, and then kind of clean in here, and the sides. Make sure you get all up there, and the front, of course. And now after you've wiped around it, I see a little bit of white still there, which is okay. You want to get as much ink off around the sides as you can, just on the sides without touching the head. It's not going to be perfect, but as long as you get most of it, and it's not like big chunks there. So as long as there's no big chunks, you're fine. Just watch your head as you're doing it, that's all. Just be really careful around that. And now you grab a clean room wipe. So let's go do that. So you grab one of these clean room wipes. If you don't have any, you gotta get some. And then I fold it into four, and then I'll take the moisturizer and soak it, not letting it leak, just enough to get it where you can kind of get it all moist. And then once you have it moist, come back under your head, and then you wipe. And you can scrub a little bit too, just watching the head. I know it looks like it's hitting the head there, but it's kind of falling over. So you can fold it up into certain ways and get into there and give it a good wipe, and wipe in the middle of the heads and all the way around. Again, just watching the heads. You can fold this up as much as you want and kind of just get into the cracks. Oops. Get into the cracks there. And then once you've done that with both heads, all completely around, and making sure that you get these bars here, these guards, make sure on both sides that they're clean. Then we can wipe cap. I'm gonna do the other head. I'll let you watch from this angle, I guess. Let's see if we can get it. There we go. Again, wiping around the head. Down the front carefully. In the cracks here. Down the front, make sure you get the back. And again, the guards, these, oops. Trying to do it without blocking the camera, but again, these guards here, just getting off as much as you can. Now that's moisturized. I rinsed it out. Now I can press a little harder to get that ink. So you just repeat the process on this side. And then when you're done that, and getting all the ink, and this whole thing is wiped clean, and around your printer heads is clean, we're going to be ready to wet cap. It doesn't have to be perfect, but get as much as you can off. See some around the front there still on this side. Want to make sure you get right in there, right in the front. Just make sure your foam tip is at least moisturized. Doesn't have to be soaking, just kind of give it one last wipe underneath. Just give it a good wipe around. Still a little bit of ink you'll get, see? So just make sure you get as much as you can. And then after you do that, kind of get a clean side of it, and I'll just give the front a wipe as well. Let's give the front a nice little wipe. Like that. Oops, like that. Give the front a wipe. There. And now that the heads are clean, then what you want to do is we've got the blocker removed from the sensor. We're wet capped. That little bit of ink is okay, it's not going to hurt us. So we got the moisturizer in. Our blade is moisturized. All we have left to do now is hit base point and put the head to sleep. So just hit base point. The head goes down, comes up, and she is wet capped. Good night.